China has been on a buying spree for years. Government subsidiary corporations and entities, investors, and businesses have been spreading their wings into places all over the world, buying everything from companies to farmland to real estate to financial assets. Are these alliances and partnerships, or is this domination? You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we're going to talk about China as it relates to Africa, and then I'm going to get into other countries as well. So, jam-packed episode for you. This all started, I did a video about China and Venezuela. Maduro went to China. Now they have this partnership, an extension of this partnership. Basically, China's going to give them some money. They're in need at this time. What I said in that video was essentially that this could be an issue for Venezuela later on. If they default on that debt, China may want some assets or infrastructure or something in return. And that's generally the way it works for creditors. They want something back. If you're not going to give them money back, you got to give something. And this occurs not just because it's China, not just because it's Venezuela. This occurs all around the world. That's generally the way it works. So I brought this up, and a subscriber brought this article to me talking about China with this supposed takeover of Zambia. So it led me down the rabbit hole. I started digging in here. It's talking about the international airport here, and I started going through a bunch of issues, and I wanted to bring this to you today. So there's a few articles I want to get into it. I'm going to show you both sides of the equation here today, and this is what I could find. I'll really try to bring it to you as quick as possible. So what we have here is this issue that China is taking over Zambia. That's what's being said in the media, and this has been dispelled by the government. This has been really an issue here going on. I wanted to find out what's really happening. Okay, so this is of course an outsider's view. If you are located in Zambia, you need to please let me know what's going on, but this is what I can find. A Zambian high court has ruled in favor of satellite pay television company MultiChoice Zambia over the joint venture between Zambia National Broadcasting Corporation, so I'll refer to that in the rest of the articles, ZNBC, and Chinese digital television service provider Topstar Communications. So the Chinese company owns 60% of the shares of ZNBC, leaving 40% for Zambia. So this is an absolute undisputed fact, and I will need to reference this throughout the rest of the video, that they do in fact own the majority stake in this company. That's important as far as I'm concerned because of the power that media has. Media is able to get in there and be able to influence what people know and what they don't. Okay, this is what they do. The Chinese have been buying up Hollywood corporations. They've been going through and buying media all over the world. In fact, this here shows us that we have to watch what's going on with any foreign country, businessman, institution, buying up assets within your borders, wherever that is. Ultimately, this may not be a problem today, but what if the two countries suddenly aren't seeing eye to eye? What if there's tensions? What if something really bad happens? Then suddenly they can shut down or, act a little out of place, and this would be very disruptive to that country. Okay, just think about all the different types of infrastructure and assets that foreign individuals, foreign companies, foreign states could buy in your country and then disrupt it from within. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm saying that's the potential. So that's what I worry about anytime we see foreign ownership of something. But it's usually not the case of a foreign individual buying a condo down the street from you. It's a problem when we start getting into infrastructure, when we start getting into media, because then they can have a lot of impact on your country. Okay, so very quickly, Zambia refutes report of Chinese firms taking over public assets due to debt. Basically what they're saying here in this article is that they're suggesting that we have a problem with debt and therefore the Chinese are bailing us out. And that is not the case. It doesn't seem like that's the case. Although a government would never admit that they have a problem and they're seeking a bailout from another country, that would make them look weak. But essentially, they're saying, look, we're growing, we're doing fine, we're just doing partnerships, this is an alliance. That's what I can see from here. I don't know if it's anything more, but ultimately, they're selling the asset. That's a fact. 60% of the company now belongs in foreign hands. That's all I need to say, okay? There's denial about the reports of Chinese companies taking over public assets. There is no single Chinese company taking over, and I totally agree with that. It's not a single company, but remember that a lot of these corporations within China are really subsidiaries of the government. They are state-owned or quasi-state-owned. So we need to be very, very careful as to the way we look at this. It's not as if it's some random corporation. This could be state-owned and I'm not talking about ZNBC specifically, I'm talking about any of the countries, okay? And companies. All right, Zambia secured a $30 million interest-free loan and a $30 million grant at the recent Forum for China-Africa Cooperation held last week in Beijing. So this year, just showing us that what they've been doing this year. I think this was from this year as far as I remember. Anyway, they have been having an alliance, a partnership that has been increasing, more and more ownership. China is getting in there. They want to build up infrastructure and they want to make money. That's for sure. There's no doubt about that, all right? Okay, moving on quickly. This is a newspaper basically saying that we want to do business with China, but stop spreading the lies. It doesn't really, it's not as if we are in a bad situation and we need a bailout and so on. So more of that coming out here. So I definitely see the government coming out and really putting this front page news, making sure they're saying everything is just fine here. Usually, I don't know about Zambia in particular, but usually that's when there's a problem. If the government has to come out and scream, no, there is no problem, usually there is. But I can't confirm that in this case. This here is basically just saying that government says it will soon contract a loan from the Import Bank of China to complete the second and third phases of digital migration project. It goes and talk about that. So there is money. I just wanted to confirm it from several sources to show you that yes, there is business taking place between these two countries and that it is an absolute fact that this one corporation is 60% owned by the Chinese, okay? This right here, Zambia launches the Chinese-funded digital TV project to benefit 500 villages. Okay, that's another partnership here. This is talking about Angola. Rich countries, resource-rich countries like Angola, a long-time China partner, have benefited from being able to export raw materials that China wants, making it straightforward to service loans. In Angola's case, that's translated into oil for infrastructure. Okay, so they have a good partnership going on right here. It's working. It's definitely working for them so that China doesn't have to necessarily go to the countries that the US has full control over. They want to be able to diversify, and it's a win-win partnership in this case. But for smaller countries, repayment strategies become tricky. East African nations, for example, may struggle to repay multi-billion-dollar loans for railway projects that will take many years to pay for themselves. As for the possibility that China might seize African assets, Branson said that is a risk, albeit not an imminent one. Still, nations unable to export commodities will likely struggle to service their debt in the long term. Of course, you need to be able to offer something on the other side. If they are unable to, then they're going to be able to take assets. That's just the way it is. Or they're going to have some very, very upset people on the other end of that deal. The level of negotiating capital that a lot of these African nations have is relatively constrained. So clearly they need to have something. They need to have some oil. They need to have some minerals or something to be able to give China that they want. This here is talking about farmland, and it's interesting what's happening not just in the US, which we're talking about in this case, but they're buying it up all around the world, including different places. This is basically talking about buying up in the US. Italy is buying, New Zealand's buying, Saudi Arabia, and so on. This here, is talking about China owning 400 farms, 33 food processing plants, and 1 out of every 4 hogs in the United States. Okay, so it goes into further based on that. So they're buying up the big companies that are associated with farming. They're buying up the farmland itself, farms, food processing plants, and so on. Everything is for sale in Cyprus, and China's buying. Okay, this is something that has been going on for a little while, ever since the crisis with Cyprus. This has been a problem for them, and one of the countries that's been buying up all their assets has been China. They have been getting in there, and they have been purchasing assets hand over fist. All right. And then to finish it off, we have this. U.S. relations with China going back from 1949 up until current today. What we have here out of the CFR, it just goes through, breaks it all down. You can scroll through it if you're interested to see everything that's been happening over the years. Definitely good to get your history in order. Now, the reason I talk about this is because we have tensions going on between the US and China today. China owns assets within the United States, and that could present itself as a problem. Okay, so this is what I want to basically just break down and bring it all back together. When you have foreign ownership of companies, when you have foreign ownership of land, of resources, of infrastructure that has been happening because of debt. Remember, a country, a city, state, a province, they get into debt and they need to help themselves out. Well, then they start to privatize, perhaps. The government starts to go bankrupt and they need a bailout. This happens to come in when you have a corporation. The corporation needs a bailout. They have to give out a special deal to a buyer, whether it's a Warren Buffett, whether it's something going on another company or something, another country. Countries bail each other out all the time in Europe, for example. And this happens here where we have a system of debt put in place, and it is there to bankrupt the companies, the people, and the nations. And this is done on purpose so that central bankers can take what they need. And that is the ultimate goal. You want ownership of assets to be in fewer and fewer and fewer hands. Never forget that. I'm going to end the video there. If you found it informative, please give me a thumbs up. When you give me a thumbs up, it helps to support this channel very much. So that's all you got to do is hit that thumbs up button. You can hit the subscribe button, where you will join over 140,000 people all around the world. If you're from Zambia, please say hi. I'd like to know what's really going on there. Please fill in the rest of the people around the world in the truth in what you see. If you're interested in my books, please take a look at the link in the description. And if you're more interested in the audiobook version, you can get that at themoneygps.com.